Good morning.
Good morning.
If you turn in your bulletins to the back, you will notice on the bottom it says Bible readings for today and Bible readings for next Sunday. And if you'll notice again on Bible readings for today, you notice we didn't even read the Bible readings for today, which I'll explain to you. So the Bible readings on the bottom of the bulletin come to us from something called the Revised Common Lectionary. And these are a set of scriptures like this that follow us through the year and come to us from the larger Protestant and Catholic traditions in North America and parts of Europe. So somebody else sort of picks these in advance for us, and we can choose or to follow these or not. There are many really good things about the Revised Common Lectionary that help us in our worship and in the church year and things like that. And there are also a few problems with the Revised Common Lectionary. And one of the problems is that the lectionary skips the ugly parts of the Bible. It skips the hard parts. And there are a lot of hard parts in the Bible. And I don't think it's useful as a worshiping body to do that. Because just like, imagine if we were doing prayers of the people, and one of the unwritten rules was, and don't talk about anything bad. Be like, well then why are we bothering, right? We're just going to pray about the good stuff. We're just going to do the happy stuff, right? And in some ways the lectionary does that. It misses the tough parts. And so this is Epiphany Sunday, where we're supposed to talk about the coming of the wise men. And last week was, for some reason, the Mennonites did Epiphany Sunday last week, when it's really this. But anyway, right? So we were supposed to read the first part of Matthew 2, the coming of the wise men. That's sort of the nice children's story thing, right? And not read the death of the children part of the story. And I go, well, that's just not honest. So that's why we did that this morning. But I also thought, one of the other problems with the whole church thing, the way we do it typically, is that you get your scripture in pre-digested chunks. That somebody chooses for us the parts of the scripture that we read, and then I sort of digest them for you and give you the meaning of the text. I thought, well, you guys are quite capable of doing that without my help. Or you could do that with my help. So that's where Some Assembly Requires comes in this morning. We're going to write a sermon together this morning and see how it goes. Now, writing a sermon on a well-known passage is more difficult than writing a sermon on something new, because what am I going to say, what is anybody going to say about this passage that hasn't been said 10,000 times already? And so you can all sort of smile and nod and drift off to thinking about other things quite comfortably if you want to. And what I think keeps me from doing that as I read Scripture is to read carefully, is to read really, really carefully. And one of the ways I do that when I'm doing this by myself is I start by thinking about the story that's already in my head. Right? And I'm guessing that for many of you, you've already heard this story 100 times, or at least dozens of times, or maybe even more than that already. This is an old story for some of you who aren't even old yet. Right? So let's start there. I want you to just take a minute or two. We're going to start with the basic story of the wise men coming. We're going to just start there. Right? So I want you, don't look down at your Bible, and just think about the story in your head, and then maybe find somebody nearby and tell each other the story that's in your head of the coming of the wise men. Okay, so just start there. But take a minute to think about that story, and then with somebody near you, tell them the story that's in your head. Reconstruct it together. do this in the classroom, I'm never sure how long to listen and wait, because like at some point people stop and start talking about the football game. You know, and I'm guessing you're not going to do that this morning, but I don't know that for sure. So now what we're going to do, okay, is just think again about this story that you just told each other. Now I'm going to read it to you again, and I want you to listen for specific things that you missed, or things that you got wrong. Right? I mean, and the cool thing was we heard this story once already from Rachel, and she got some things wrong. I don't know if you noticed that.
No, Bob.
Bob got them wrong. I'm sorry, Rachel was right, but Bob was wrong. Right? Bob wasn't paying attention to part of the story. Right? So you just did this story again, right? So I'm going to read it to you in the version I have. And we're going to, I want you to listen really carefully and listen for words, ideas that weren't in the story you just reconstructed in your head and with the person here. Okay. So, in the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising, and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler, who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men, and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. So what was in the text you just heard that wasn't in your story, or was different in the Bible than was in your story? Who wants to start? Mary.
They went in a house. We usually think about it being like an outside stable for animals. But they said house.
Definitely house.
I always wondered about the time difference.
Okay.
They also brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh to the child.
Okay.
Axel said that he thought that they were trained assassins or possibly diplomats that were sent out by Herod specifically for the purpose of hurting him.
Ah.
But then when they saw the baby, they changed their minds.
They changed their minds. But what does the text say? What does the actual story say about why they changed their minds?
They were warned in a dream.
They were warned in a dream.
But they were misled at the beginning. I mean, they weren't trying to do the baby any harm.
Right. Other bits that were surprising to you when you heard the story.
Nothing said about what they were doing in the remaining 2 years. Mary and Joseph were whatever people do with the newborn.
Okay.
Stay awake all day, all night.
Who's missing from the story? Did you notice there was somebody missing?
Joseph.
Joseph. surprised me this week too. I'm going, well, where's Joseph there? He shows up in a while, but yeah.
He should be there because he said he was the father of Jesus.
You'd think he'd be there, wouldn't he?
Maybe he's working.
Maybe he's working. Uh-huh. Anything else that was interesting?
There's no angel of God or anything, right?
Right?
Went out to the shepherds.
Mm-hmm.
The wise men had to do it the hard way.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that says how old the baby is.
Right, right. Is Jesus toddling along at this point, or is he...
It's the time difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's so many little bits here. So if you were going to construct this sermon, what parts would you... we talked about his possible historical puzzles we could talk about. Right. We could talk about dreams.
I'm always intrigued by what's not in the text, like where did the wise men come from? The Orient, is that India? How did they know? What star did they follow? You know,
Mm-hmm. From the east.
from the east.
Yeah. Right, and we could ask historical questions like, so how does a star stop on top of a house? Right? But the text doesn't care, does it? It's not that sort of story. It doesn't describe, you know, because, I mean, anybody knows that stars don't normally stop on top of houses. Like which star is on top of my house? Well, they're sort of all up there somewhere, aren't they? So there's something, this is not a scientific sort of story. If we're trying to answer scientific questions, it's not going to help us. Because it's not about that.
I think it seems like it's really about showing that one prophecy after the other is unfolding, so that things can be laid out in a way to demonstrate that Jesus is the Messiah.
Okay, so you like the prophecy fulfillment sort of theme. Mm-hmm. So that's the sort of typical children's Christmas pageant part of the story. And that's where the lectionary wanted me to stop before it gets ugly. But let's just go on to ugly. Okay? Because you know, and I think it's really important as you listen to the next part of the story, you also listen to Dominic and Ori clomping around the back. Because this is a story about them. Now after they had left, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child and to destroy him." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother by night and went to Egypt and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I have called my son." When Herod saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, he was infuriated, and he sent and killed all the children in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old and under, according to the time that he had learned from the wise men. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, wailing in loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be consoled, because they are no more. What a horrid story. What did you notice? In some ways, this isn't the story you notice, so you just, this one just gets at you in your guts. This one's...
The thing I noticed the most about this story, besides the fact that we have him was at age, is that throughout the Old Testament, all of these little boys are always being killed all the time. And when Israel's tromping through the desert and they're committing genocide, they kill all the little boys.
small amount of indifference too. The angel of the Lord appears to Mary and Joseph, but to no one else, to say, hey, your child might not be God, but they're important to me. Run run to the hills and do whatever you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because of the limitedness of information.
Yeah. Yeah, and God does nothing. Saves one little boy, but the rest of them, they all die.
But isn't, from a symbolic point of view, it seems to me the message of that story is, no matter what the government, the power is bestowed from on high. There's a star. Other people are aware that this is going to be a powerful ruler, and that no matter what the government, the external government does, Herod, he cannot trump the power of the power of this child. You know, his power's inside. You know, it's a horrific world they live in. We can't even imagine. But if you step way, way back, that's to me what it seems to be the message is that power is now being transferred from external to internal.
But still, right, and still exists in Herod. Because he still does have the power to kill.
But this is the one place that's involved.
Okay.
Inside. The body will die.
Egypt, right? Hundreds of miles through the wilderness. Regular caravans. They probably just joined a caravan. Huge Jewish population in Egypt, so that's not a problem. In Jesus' day, more Jews in Alexandria, Egypt, than there were in all of Israel. Or at least close, anyway. So that wouldn't have been a big deal, but still a long caravan ride with a small baby. So, when Herod died, an angel of the Lord suddenly appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child, his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who were seeking the child's life are dead." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was ruling over Judea, in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. And after having been warned in a dream, he went away to the district of Galilee. There he made his home in a town called Nazareth, so that what had been spoken through the prophets might be fulfilled. He will be called a Nazarene. Comments?
It seems to me that the angel could have just told him in the first place, go to Nazareth.
Nah. But it wouldn't have been, except that then you wouldn't have had the prophecy fulfilled. Out of Egypt I will call my son.
And do we have any idea how long they were in Egypt?
No, after Herod died.
And it only talks about one child. I mean,
Yeah.
there must have been other children in the family at that point.
Ah. I mean, historically, we know that Herod died 4 BC, roughly. So that makes the dating of it all really tricky. Not long, probably not very long. It was one of the things that was missing for me is that you'd expect it to say something like, and then God struck Herod down, right, as an explanation for Herod's death. Now, the other reality is that, people who understood something about Herod knew that Herod had done so many horrible things that God had any number of reasons to strike Herod down. Herod, besides killing these children, actually killed a number of his own children, just to because he thought they were looking at his job a little too carefully. So Herod was not at all averse to killing children or adults or anybody else. Lots of dreams, aren't there? Right? Joseph, right? This is how God speaks but only in Matthew. Matthew is the only gospel, the only place in the New Testament that talks about God speaking in dreams. The Old Testament's got lots of God spoke in dreams to this person and that person and the next person. And Matthew is the only place in the New Testament where God speaks in dreams. I don't know what to do with that. Things you notice when you open the scripture.
Also, they talk about the angel of the Lord appearing, saying, "Hey, you gotta get out of town."
Yeah, in a dream, though.
In a dream, but they don't, like, it seems like the other times angels are mentioned. There's, glory and pomp and certain, there's more vision, there's more description
Okay.
of what it is actually saw. This is like a third person kind of narrative, right?
I'd have to think about that.
And the perspective of the person telling the story is, I don't know, it's not Jesus, it's not Mary, it's not Joseph.
Yeah, it's a messenger. So that's our scripture for the day. Right? Which is a hard scripture. Worth experiencing. Worth thinking about, but also sort of at a gut level. Worth just taking some time and then being with the scripture.